Okay. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to use weight, and we're going to bin weight by weight quartiles. Okay, so to go over here to the patient lookup tab, and we're going to come down to this middle one, and I'm going to actually delete all this so we can build this together. All right, so first thing we're going to do is you're going to get the quartiles. Okay, so we're going to get the minimum. We're going to get Q1, Q2, Q3, and Q4, which is also equal to the max. All right, so over here, we want to get their values. So if you have 2 copies of your data open, you should, I think that's how I saved it. I think that's how it should automatically open. Go to view, arrange all, put these vertically next to each other so we can see them side by side. So over here on one side, we want to have the data, and you want to have weight. Okay. On the left-hand side, over here is where I'm going to get these quartiles. Right. So I want to show you a couple different functions that will give you the same value. So let's start with percentiles. Percentile. And you want to use the one that's got that .inc, percentile.inc, because we want to include 0 and 1. We want to include the minimum and the maximum. So the minimum, sorry, in here now we want to click, you can click up here on the top of F and get the whole column of F. That's kind of a shortcut, so you don't have to actually put in the whole range, beginning and end. Sometimes the functions will let you do that. Then I'm going to say the minimum is the 0th percentile. So that's, I get 50. Okay, now once you have that, you should have got a 50. So you can copy that formula to everything below it. And what's nice is we don't have to use that $ thing because we actually selected the entire column. Right, now for the first quartile, that's also known as the 25th percentile, right? On the second quartile, that's also known as the 50th percentile. So I put 0.5 here. And the third quartile, that's also known as the 75th percentile. Okay, so this is equal to percentile .inc, and then the range, and then the percentile. Okay, as a decimal. So that's what I use to get that.
Range would be like 0.25.
Yep, 0.0, 0.25, 0.5, 0.75, and 1. All right, there's another way to do this, right? And that's using, and let me use wrap text so we can keep our eyes on this one. Okay, there's another way to do this, and that's using quartile. That included, and again, you're going to pick the range, and then you're going to pick 1, 2, 3, 0, 1, 2, 3, or 4. Okay, and then the quartile number. Okay, so I'm going to start with the third one. Okay. All right, I'm going to say equals quartile. See how I have 3 options? I'm going to pick the quartile.inc option. Oops. Equals quartile.inc, and then tab is going to tells Excel to open that function up here in the function formula. I'm going to go to my data. I'm going to select the column that has all the weight data. I'm going to put a comma. Now it's the third quartile. So notice up here, it's trying to help me finish this formula out. So if I click on that, it's going to tell me which one do I want. I want the third quartile, so I put a 3. And I close the parentheses and I get the same number. Now you can copy that formula to all of these and see if you can get the same numbers by changing which quartile you want. So for the minimum, you want a 0. Okay, you guys see that? For the first quartile, you're going to change this to a 1. Right? You can also use your arrow keys to find the one you want. And then for the third quartile, second quartile, we're going to change this to a 2. And then the third one we already did. And then the last one, we're going to change it to the fourth quartile. So in Excel, there's multiple ways to get the same numbers. Okay, you guys make sure you got that function. I'll make this one a little bigger. You got it? All right. So you should be getting these same numbers. Did you not get it? Okay, you're good. All right. All right. Now, that's a little trick in Excel because I'm trying to tell Excel this is not a formula. I'm just writing this like text. I put a little quote right at the beginning. Oh, okay. So there's another way to get a couple of these, right? I'll put it off to the right. The minimum, I can say equals minimum. I think it's min. I think it's min. Hold on, let me check. Yeah. Equals min. Yeah. And then I just go to the weight column again. And I should get, oops, I accidentally typed. Okay, so you see, I still got that. So just so you know, hopefully you're getting comfortable that there's a couple of these that have multiple ways of getting the same number. So this last one is equal to the max, right? Of the range of values. Okay. So this was equal to all right, you don't have to do all three ways. You know, one of them is sufficient for whatever you're doing. The one that's the most useful, if you only want to learn one, is percentiles, because you can use that for deciles, quintiles, quartiles, whatever you want. Okay, but once we have these, we're going to now build a lookup table. So now we're going to build the lookup table. Right, and so for that, we're going to need bin names. You always need these 3 columns: bin names, bin min, and bin max. Right, so if you look on the notes I just gave you, you'll know what to do here. So for the bin mat, the first one, right, we're going to call Q1, and it's going to go from the minimum in our data. So we're going to say equals, I'm going to point to that minimum. And I can choose the 50 from either any of these columns, whichever one I decide. Let's say I'm going to go with quartile 1. I'm going to click there. The bin minimum is 50. The bin max, remember, is right inclusive, and this is the first quartile of data. So I'm going to say this is equal to that Q1 value. All right. If you want to go over here and give your bin names up front, you can. So we need the 4 quartiles. I'm going to select this whole little box and go to my little window pane and do all borders so we can make it look like a nice little lookup table. All right. Now, remember I told you the quartiles, the quantile, the values that you're doing when you're doing this are always your max because we do right inclusive. So every one of these is going to equal the next value up for the quartile. And because these are in order, I can actually now drag this and just copy it down automatically. Okay, so I'm pointing to these numbers, guys, or you can point to these. Whichever ones you want to point to, those have to be our maxes. But we start with, remember, the minimum goes as the minimum in the bin, the first bin. We want to come over to the second quartile. And here we're going to say equals. We're going to go and use the previous one plus our increment. So what's our data? Weight is in whole kilograms, right? So if we're counting in whole numbers, look at the weight. What's the precision in the weight data? 1. Thank you. So it's 1. So this is 67. So I'm going to now use that formula. And I got these. So now I have my little lookup table. Okay. So now I'm going to bring that over here. Here's my lookup table. Now I'm going to come over to the data and I'm going to create a column. You can right click if you have height, if you don't have this space in there, right click on height and hit insert a column. I already had mine. It's called weight quartile You got your space, right? You're right next to the 57.
Yeah, right.
All right, now in here, we're gonna say equals index. All right, now, the very first thing that goes in it next to the parentheses and index is what you want as an output. What do you want as an output? You wanted to tell you what quartile. So we're gonna select Q1 through Q4, okay, comma. Now we're gonna match, open parentheses. And what's it gonna match on? It's gonna match, this is our lookup value, the 57. I click on the 57.
I don't see it. Mine's like covered.
Oh, okay, if it's covered, it's because it's centered, justified versus right. Just put type F, type whatever, E2, yeah. Okay, now we gotta go and look up our lower end or bin minimums. So we're gonna come over to these bin minimums and select this bin minimums, comma 1, because we're saying we're gonna match that the bin minimums. We're gonna find the bin that that bin minimum is always lower until you find the next one that doesn't work, and then it's the bin before it. Okay, so once you have that close match and close index, and then that should say Q1. So check it, does it work? Yep, it is Q1.
Oh, mine says Q1.
Yay. All right, so if you got that, now go up here and change everything that was in the lookup table to have $signs. So remember, that's function F4. And if this is too small, you can make this bigger by hitting that down arrow.
Wait, what am I typing after the E2?
I have Q1 in here.
You got to put the minimums of the bins. Get the range of the minimum of the bins. Okay. So if you got that and it still says Q1, you can double click this and that automatically binned all your data by wait until. Guys, is when you copy this formula down, you don't want this box to be shifting down every time you copy it. That's why these numbers on the match have to have $signs because you're always looking at these bins. Okay?